Hello CS300 and welcome to my Java tutorial on exceptions and exception handling, where I will just be kind of covering the basics. So let's just jump right into it, I guess. So firstly, exceptions are used to error check within your programs, so that issues that normally would make your program crash are caught, so your program can just kind of keep on going. Exceptions are sort of separated into two different groups. There's checked and then unchecked exceptions. So checked exceptions are exceptions that have to be handled by compile time. Otherwise, these errors can be detrimental to your program, so they have to be handled or declared. Otherwise, Java will actually kind of stop you at compile time if you don't handle these. And you'll get a warning, which I will give a quick example of unchecked exception. And this is oftentimes associated with kind of file input-output stuff in general. So let's say I'm trying to read in some file that doesn't even exist. Well, Java knows that this is kind of a risk. And so right here, it's going to tell me that I either need to add a throws declaration, or I need to surround with a try catch. So if I add a throws declaration, this is just kind of a warning right here at the top of this method that, at the top of the main in this case, but usually methods in general, that it may throw a file not found exception. So at least we have that warning there. We can know that that's where the issue lies. But today I'm going to show you try and catch. Try and catch are keywords that are set aside by Java for exceptions. So this try block here, it basically just surrounds your normal code. You especially want to make sure it surrounds your code that is potentially problematic. And so a great example of this is a file reader object. Because when you create this file reader object, one thing you're asking is to open and read this file. And if Java can't do that for you, then it needs to have a way of letting you know. And so then we're going to add what's called catch here. And this catch is where we handle an exception, which is basically just letting us know that it was unable to do this file reader. So you can catch a general exception because exception is a parent class of many different types of exceptions. So some exceptions you may know are null pointer exception, array index out of bounds exception, file not found exception. This will catch all of those. But you don't really want that necessarily, because you want to make sure that you are letting the user know exactly what is going on, or you want to know yourself exactly what's going on as the programmer. And so in general, you don't want to use a parent class like this. The more specific you can get, probably the better. And so what's going on is a file not found exception. And so again, this catch block is where we want to handle this exception. So I'm just going to give a little print error statement and say error could not find that file. Okay. And then if we run this, it says error could not find that file, and we know what's going on. So now to touch on unchecked exceptions, these differ from checked exceptions mainly in the fact that they do not have to be handled by compile time. Your program will compile and allow you to run it without having adding a throws declaration or putting it in a try catch. But that doesn't mean that you don't want to put it in a try catch, and you still want to handle these things. Usually unchecked exceptions are, at least at the beginning, people will tell you that runtime exceptions are unchecked exceptions, because that's probably what you're most familiar with. And basically that runtime exceptions just mean they happen while your program is in the middle of running. So one thing is, if you prompted a user for some input and they gave you something that didn't really make sense, then that would be an unchecked exception. So let's just say we have a scanner because we're reading in their input, And we prompt them and we say, how old are you? Okay, and then we save their answer in an integer called age, and we do scanner.nextInt because we're expecting them to just, go along with what we want, and we're expecting them to just type in an age. Okay. How old are you? I'm 20. And so we say, 20. Great. Okay, but it's not, we don't live in a perfect world, so they might actually say something like, how old are you? 20. We were not expecting that at all, and so we got this runtime unchecked exception called input mismatch exception. And of course, again, you can use a try and catch for something even if it doesn't tell you you need to. So input mismatch exception. And right here, this is just the name of, because technically you're creating an object that's an input mismatch exception, and then you're just naming it right here. And I just named it E because that's traditionally what people do. Please type in a number. Okay. And now if they run it and they say, I'm 10, please type in a number. So that was now handled by this. One thing I want to quick mention too is that you may have seen in the past that you could have this if here and then be catching errors like this. Like let's say if age equals null and you're trying to use an if statement to catch this, then like that's okay too. You can just return and you can do whatever and then return. Well, there are many reasons you don't want to do this. I recommend looking this up online. I've had a lot of students come in and ask me this. An article I particularly recommend is called Advantages of Exceptions. It's published by Oracle. So yeah, thank you for watching.